Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com. In this episode, Jeremy and I will show you how to create a winning cold email strategy from scratch. You'll find out who to target and what to write in your emails in order to maximize your reply rates and profits. We're going to be using a company called Framer, that's framer.com, as our example for today's strategy walkthrough. Enjoy.
So what do you want to do today, Jack?
Today, let's pick a company and talk about what would happen if they hired us to create their outbound or cold email strategy. So we'll start from scratch and walk everyone through how we would go about cold email for one particular company.
Okay, so what company are we going to take then?
Let's take a company that's in a niche that you and I are not in, something that we're outsiders, but something specific enough so that we can create a campaign that's targeted to one particular group. Now, looking through the many wonderful products out there, I came across Framer. It's a design tool for designers at big companies.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So for you listening, here's what you have to know about Framer. They're a design tool. They help large companies, specifically companies that have a product like an app or maybe a web. So maybe they have an app in the iOS store or Android marketplace, or they have some kind of a web app. This tool is built to help the designers of these companies collaborate and design better products faster. So if you're familiar with Framer, you know they're already a large company that have done an incredible job at getting many users already. But today, Jeremy and I are going to tackle the question, how can they grow with cold email?
Jack and I have a lot of points. As usual, we do that offline, so we try not to influence each other. And we're just going to disclose them one by one today and see what we think of it. Do you want to start, Jack?
Yeah, so we start by gathering some information about Framer and the kinds of customers that they have. So one of my favorite places to start is by taking a look at the companies that they list on their homepage, as well as the testimonials provided online. I'm looking for two things when I answer the question, who is their target prospect? First, I'm looking to find out the kinds of companies that are using this tool, what industries they're in, what size they're in, similarities I can find that can help me identify the correct company to target. And next, the kinds of people at those companies that should be added to my prospect list. That way, even though I'm reaching out to the right company, I'm not reaching out to the incorrect person, or at least I'm giving myself the best chance of targeting the right employee at that company. Okay, so Jeremy, is that where you began as well?
Yeah, although if we were hired, we probably would have access to their clientele, so we wouldn't need to look on their website, but we could just directly just ask whoever at Framer, can we get the list of the clients? One thing that I would do actually that may be a bit different is looking at the actual purchase being done on credit card and then see if there is any credit card that actually purchase multiple single accounts. Looking at their pricing page, it's a bit primitive, honestly. So I'm just wondering if they've done enough work to identify some segments of a group of users who have slightly different needs. Because right now, looking at their page, there is just single individual for X amount of dollar per month, or there is team and contactors. So it's kind of like very rough or raw. So yeah, I'll be looking into that. And then looking at with credit card, if people make multiple single license purchase, then I will try to figure out why, because it may be that there is some sort of influencer or someone offering a course or maybe a school or something that is different, a niche that we haven't tapped, and use that to do a specific cold email campaign to sort of like reach out to similar person, because as soon as I get one, then there's chances that it'll be like repeat purchase. And that may actually be something that fall in between their pricing plan on the page, so they may not have paid attention to that specific segment.
The saying is, not all customers are created equal. And this is so important when you decide who to go after, because in reality, they have a lot of options here, but there is a select handful of companies that would make the biggest impact for their, let's say, bottom line or return on investment for this campaign. And we want to make sure we go after the most profitable, best customers for them. And yeah, I love it. That's a great place to find that answer. Who are these companies and people that should be targeted? Based on what we've gathered from the website, companies that they have include Uber, Airbnb, Dropbox, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, the big internet product companies out there that we're all familiar with. So there's a couple similarities among these companies that I'm taking note of. And here are a few of them. These would be the filters I would be using to start building a company list. They need at least 5,000 employees. They must have an app in the top 1% of its category. So I'm thinking about like maybe Slack or Booking.com. They can have either an iOS or an Android app. But if they also have a web app, that's best case scenario since this product helps teams do all three. They need to have a design team because it's a tool for collaboration. So if they have one designer on staff, this tool probably isn't the best fit for them. And finally, they should probably already be using some kind of a customer research tool to collect survey data. This would be a bonus filter if I needed to comb through my results even finer so that I know that if they're already using a research tool, they may be interested to see how Framer could help streamline design by including a research tool that's built into the entire design process. So a couple of filters here, but before going on to the kinds of people to reach out to, do you have anything to add here, Jeremy?
Yeah, that sounds great. I will double check it with the actual purchase made, because it may be that those company actually only try the free version and they use their name on their website just because they tried the free version, where in fact actually no one's really using that because it falls short on some features that those big companies will really need. So I'll just use it as a double filter, just making sure that the company you selected are actually paying us big money and are on a team plan.
Let me just piggyback off what you just said, because when we talk about the kinds of people at these companies to target, I was going to say, don't go off your gut instinct or who you think would probably be the best. Instead, use data. Like, for example, I thought the kinds of people that would be making the purchase decision would be the product managers themselves, or maybe the head of design. But when I went in and found the people who left the testimonials and looked them up on LinkedIn, they didn't have those job titles at all. I was dead wrong. Instead, I saw a lot of product designer or design technologist or another product designer. So instead of just making an assumption who would be your end buyer, please, if you've got customer data, make sure to double check it with that so that you're not making any errors early on in the campaign that could cost you.
All right. What's next?
So now that we've identified who we're going after, and in short, these are very big internet companies with web apps and mobile apps, and then the designers at those companies, now it's time to figure out what to say in our cold email campaign that's going to start a conversation, start a sales conversation for Framer. So first thing I would do is I'm not going to pretend I can write a cold email campaign that's going to fit every single kind of company that's on my prospect list. It's just going to be too broad if I try and send the same message to Pinterest as I would to Lyft. Like, they're different companies, they should see different campaigns. That is, if we want to have the best response rate, we're going to have to get more personalized than that. So what I would do at first is I would categorize the kinds of companies that I want to reach out to. So it seems like, for example, they have Uber as a customer. And if I determine that Uber is a great customer for Framer, then it may be a great idea to put a campaign together for other travel or ride-sharing companies out there. Yes, it will be a much smaller list, but this is just what I would call a micro campaign or a mini campaign that I can send a really personalized set of emails to that shows that I understand the kind of company that they are and the industry they're in. And I can use some testimonials and stats from maybe Uber to win them over in a cold email campaign. So I would basically break down who I want to go after into small segments or mini campaigns. That's step one. So just realizing that we don't have to speak to everyone the exact same way. Side note here, for those using QuickMail, one shortcut that you may want to think about using if you want to break down your prospect list into small groups is just create different merge tags. If you want to drop in custom testimonials or custom case studies into your cold emails, you can just create a custom merge tag and populate the testimonial or case study you want to include in a spreadsheet that you can upload to QuickMail. So it's actually, you don't have to do this manually. You can use spreadsheets in QuickMail to speed this up.
You're basically saying that we could have the same sort of like template email to reach out to person, but using different testimonials or mini case study. In your case, case study could be like a simple testimonial like, hey, people like Uber had great experience with us, just to clarify for the audience. And then you will use then the same template, but with different variable for the merging tags. So different audience will receive slightly different variation of that email. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's it exactly. That way you don't have to create so many different campaigns in your cold email software, and you can leverage, merge tags to send these emails in a way that feels really personal.
One thing I would say as well is I probably wouldn't limit myself to just generating revenue email per se. So one thing I'll probably do is also use cold email for market research. It usually goes much easier to not try to sell something to someone straight away, but try to understand them. But I'll be looking for some niche that may or may not benefit from using Framer and doing some research on them. The reason for it is having cold email is also a great tool to find new revenue streams very easily. And that may not be something that the company had considered. Maybe they discarded some niche too early in a process where they would actually potentially benefit a lot. I could also look at competitors, see what niche they're going after, analyze the gap between their product and Framer, see if there is something that we could shine on or there is a gap in the competitor offering, and then just go on and just ask like, hey guys, have you ever considered Framer, or why did you go for, I don't know, Sketch, for example, instead of using Framer? I'd like to understand that. Would you be okay to have some discussion about it? We're looking to potentially expand your product into different directions. So coming from that angle about research, not trying to sell, is usually very fruitful to analyze different market opportunities.
And what a great way to start a conversation with the right kind of audience here. In addition to just gathering research, it's almost worst case, you get some helpful research, and possibly best case, they're interested enough once you explain what's going on that they end up becoming a customer. This is an awesome approach, but keep in mind that I think exploring new markets is smart and should be done if you want to keep growing, but doubling down on what's already working, I think, is the surest path to quick results from any cold email campaign. So I've heard when you're buying ads, you should be putting 80% of your money into ads that are performing well, that are working, and experimenting with 20% of your marketing budget. And so it's kind of a similar approach. It's like double down on what's working, but allow some extra time to explore maybe some uncharted territory. With these cold emails, you need more to say than just a few case studies here. So what I've extracted from Framer's website are the key benefits that it's bringing its users. And I found these both on the web copy and also inside the testimonials. I think testimonials are a very underrated place to find the top benefits of a product, because these are words straight from your customer. So they'll tell you exactly what it is that made them so happy to be a user. So through a little bit of research, it turns out that Framer helps a great deal with speed. So teams who use Framer are able to design faster. They're also able to prototype anything from flows or micro interactions. Now, by the way, I kind of have no idea what this is. I'm assuming if you're a designer, you're nodding your head as I say these things, but I'll just take it for granted that it's a big deal for designers. And lastly, it helps collaborate with a design team easily. Okay, so these are, let's say, 3 benefits I pulled from the site that I believe should be included in early messages to our prospects, because these are the key points that keep coming up in the web copy that keep in mind the website is geared to sell. So they've already paid copywriters and they've taken time to research their user base. They know that these are the key selling points that should be on their website. So that's a good indication this should be included in emails and particularly early on in the campaign to grab our prospects' attention.
I do love also the fact that they're saying that helps you gaining faster. So I'll be trying to find who's got time pressure to deliver things. And that may be a difficult trigger to find. But if we find it, then there may be some huge rewards to reap from this. So it's like, hey, we noticed you just getting funded and you will have a release next year. Is that would actually benefit from speed kind of thing, or making sure that a team who has regular schedule in their release, maybe they have to release once every 6 months or things like that, and just ask them if they could win time on a design phase because of our tools. Those sort of things may actually be quite interesting trigger to find out, because a lot of the time, whether or not we reply to a cold email is very time sensitive, that it was at the right time when I received the email kind of thing.
For anyone thinking about how to build a hot list of prospects, this is the sort of thinking that goes into who needs this product most right now. And like Jeremy said, if time is an issue and Framer just so happens to help with that, you have a very good chance of getting a reply if you reach out. Another idea for building a hot list is if you found companies that match our filters that maybe just hired a designer or two, maybe that's an indication their team's growing, and that finding an easier way to collaborate is very important right now. So maybe sending a message to that segment saying, maybe congrats on hiring a new designer. Perhaps this is a way that Google has been able to collaborate with their design team easier. Would you like me to share some more details on why they said insert testimonial about Framer, or something along the lines that speaks to the fact that they just hired a designer and that it may help them collaborate better?
Piggybacking on this one, it seems like Framer is an essential tool of a designer work. So there's chances that this tool will also be mentioned in the recruitment ad for designers. So I'll be looking into job posting for competitors or for ads mentioning usage of competitors, and then just trying to work my way in that company and figuring out, is that a right tool when you're going to hire someone else? Like, is Framer actually more useful than the current tool they're using at bigger team size? Because then I'll build up on this one. I'll say like, hey, I just see that you're grabbing, or you're hiring someone else. Framer happened to be a good tool when a team reaching a certain size. Again, you drop that mini case study that you're mentioning, like, at Disney, they could accelerate whatever, your product better, but use that. And then as a sort of like entry for having a conversation with that company and potentially, win them over if they're a big team.
That's a great point here. And just one last thing here. Notice that call to action is essentially, are you happy with the way you're able to do X, Y, Z? More or less, because we're trying to do some information gathering, but also we want to see if we could strike a nerve here, where if we say, for example, since you're hiring a designer with experience with X tool, I figured I'd just reach out to find out, are you happy with the way it lets you prototype? For example, adding flows or micro interactions, ? And then I may say like, PS, Uber and Google have said that they're really pleased with the way they can add micro interactions in minutes. Let me know if you're interested to hear more. This kind of thing, like I've tested this and it's not salesy, but after testing an approach like this, I've found that if you are striking a nerve, they would actually benefit from being able to do whatever it is you're asking them. I've found that call to action typically gets responses like, hey, I've never heard of the tool, but actually, yeah, like I'm not quite happy with the prototyping. Can you send me more details? Or, hey, I checked out your site. It looks interesting. Can we speak? Like, you don't even have to ask people, can we jump on a phone call? If you're approaching them the right way with the right benefit, they will come to you with interest and meeting times and this kind of thing. So definitely trying this approach would be a good idea for a campaign here.
Yeah, and imagine a second that this very morning, one of the designer on that team is complaining about that micro stuff that you're talking about, then boom, you're going to get a conversation straight away.
Totally. One unrelated approach that we could take here, think about framers' place in the design world. This is a pretty big deal. Designers from top companies are using it. So I would try reaching out to people who are attending major design conferences and taking a few steps back in the sales process and just finding out if you can create a campaign with people attending, let's say, a top design conference, and just seeing if you can arrange time to chat with them at the event, or to see if they would be interested in hearing your keynote speech, or if they would be able to meet at your booth. This kind of thing wouldn't be a direct sales approach, but there's a very good chance that designers attending conferences could be an untapped market that they could use to get some bigger clients in the door.
Yeah, especially that they have their own conference. So they could always piggybacking on the hiring designer. You could always say like, hey, you're hiring a designer. We're having a conference on how to manage, multiple designers in your area next month, or, are you interested in attending, or, do you want me to send you a ticket, without necessarily mentioning being pushy about trying to sell your product versus the competitor they are using. They're going to see the value of it as it's basically just, would you like to be advertised at our conference? It's pretty much the same thing. So it may actually work very well to build up on external assets that your company is providing, such as the conference, to actually help converting people. And your goal as a cold email may not be to sell them the software, but to actually help them to come at that conference where they can be exposed to the product and all the advantages that you have over other competitors.
And I think this comes down to understanding your sales process, because it may be that large companies send their designers to your conference, where they then learn about your tool, where they then pitch it to their team, where they then sign up for the free trial, where they then, become paying annual subscribers. Just being more aware of your prospects' buying cycle could give you tips on, okay, maybe we should address people who haven't signed up for this conference yet and see if they would be interested in meeting there, or maybe downloading this keynote speech so that we can get them into next year's conference. This kind of thing is always a good idea. And finally, I can say with confidence that if you are lucky enough to be listening and knowing that you have a following, you're a keynote speaker, your brand is well recognized in your space, leverage the fact that people know who you are in your cold email campaigns, and it works. And just to clarify, I'm not saying you need to toot your own horn in your cold emails, but just having a strong inbound strategy in place helps outbound a great deal. People will recognize you. They may even like who you are through your writing or through your speeches, and they'll be quicker to reply.
So to recap briefly, make sure you do your research to figure out the strength of the product as well as the customer who would benefit the most from it. Build on the existing client list to identify low-hanging fruits and spend around 20% of your time effort on exploring potential lucrative niches with influencers. And here's my personal note as a founder. I'll definitely identify the school producing my type of customers or future customers and aggressively go at them with free licenses. So I make sure that the tool they will be formed on is my tool. And this is a long game, but that's what 3ds Max used to corner the market of 3D modeling and how they managed to win with an inferior product. Every student was formed on this tool, and it became the de facto 3D modeling tool in most firms.
Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high vibe by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast,
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.